Hello everyone, and welcome to our newest installment of our Draenora series of our second season. I am your host, Aries, or Doma on multiple places, and I am joined currently by the members of our High Elven side of our story. If you've been keeping up with our story as it's been going along, you will know that we are currently split into two sides, the Wood Elven side and the High Elven side of a bloody civil war, in the Ebonwood on the eastern side of the continent Draenora. As we have been saying before in the past, we are shortening our introductions so that way we can move on with the show and provide more content. So without further ado, let us get into a quick recap of what happened in the last episode. On our High Elven side, for our last episode of Draenora, both Nervek and Emery were getting more and more acquainted with their surroundings within the ring city of Ishan Nadar, the floating city-like complex floating slightly above the Ebonwood, still obscured by the massive trees that guard its exterior and make up its interior. Both Emery and Nervek finding very powerful allies or interesting things to keep them occupied have spent a majority of these past 3 months separated from one another, getting more and more used to their surroundings and becoming more and more familiar with those around them. Some powerful allies were made. Answers to questions sought after for quite some time had been found. And without further ado, let us get into a more in-depth going about with these past 3 months. Life has been rather mundane for Nervek. Each week, a group of soldiers are randomly selected to participate on patrols along the front lines, or the border between the land designated for the Wood Elves and the High Elves. Though getting out of the Ring City has been refreshing for you during that time, life within the barracks has not been confining for you, since you are able to walk freely about the Ring City on the access layers that are available to you, but same day in, day out can grow rather boring very quickly. Though, during your time, you have not sat idle. Using your newfound connections within the ranks, you have been able to retrieve one of the items requested to you for you to obtain by a person of importance, though the other item has been more egregious in its acquisition. Emery, life has taken a drastic turn for you. After anticipating a long stay with your newfound friend, the chef from Real Food, a powerful friend has taken you under wing and alleviated your living conditions. Siatrian has been tutoring you intensively for several months, teaching you about the proper methods of spellweaving. Over the course of these months, you have learned much in the arcane arts and ascended past what you have been before, learning more both about the history of what you seek and getting answers to your own questions with your lust for knowledge. And now, the third member of the High Elven story, separated from both of his companions in their unfortunate encapturement near the beginning of our story, Luvash is now brought to light. Luvash, life has been nothing more than 4 walls in a shadowy room. No windows, no other living beings. A cot in the corner for use, but not comfort. Food comes into existence every day via magical, unseen means, bland and tasteless, but functional. The last thing that you remember is being led down a hallway, following Nervek and another figure, when suddenly the hallway around you started to morph and contort, the colors blending and blinding you. Time's passing has blurred and been obscured. You don't know how many days have passed. You have known no life other than this shadowy room, when one day something changed. No food was created or sent to you via magical means. Instead, you heard a voice. The voice spoke in chimes and bells, a voice that you could not interpret. Then followed by a sort of purplish light, dancing with pink sparks in the air, this sort of almost globule-like ball materialized inches from your face. It cascaded off a sort of warmth, almost like that of basking in the sun after a cold winter's night. This globule of light began to speak to you, first in a language that you do not understand, then righted, once again, in common. Luvash. It speaks your name.
Is this sphere producing any sort of light as well?
Yes, it gives off a faint glow, slightly illuminating the room around you and the stone walls that have been in your confinement.
Okay, so it's very bright.
Somewhat.
Because I'm assuming that I haven't really seen light for a while.
Other than the occasional small glow of the food in the corner materializing almost into existence, yes, there has been no light.
I'm just sort of averting my gaze so that I don't look at it directly, because my eyes do definitely hurt when looking at it directly. What else are you gonna do now? Oh, sorry. I haven't done my voice in a long while. What else are you gonna do right now?
Luvash.
Yes, well, listen, you goddamn elves. If you do not plan on torturing me or killing me, you might as well let me go, right?
Luvash. They are coming.
Who is coming?
They will find you.
I don't understand.
Run, Luvash.
I would love to. Who am I speaking to?
Run. Far away.
Does anything happen?
As the voice continues, with each word, the globule begins to shrink in size. The voice growing softer and sounding more distant. They're coming, Luva. And gone. Suddenly, an outline of a door frame begins to burn brightly along its edges, blinding you.
Like actually blinding me?
It blinding you for a moment, causing you to rub away at your eyes. When the light begins to settle, you look forward, and there is just a long hallway in front of you, dimly lit by these dimly glowing crystalloid type protrusions from the walls.
Okay, well, I am going to get close to the door and try to open it very, very slightly and very, very quietly.
You reach for the door, and you realize that this door is not physical, and your hand passes through it and into this hallway.
Well, that seems unnecessary. Why not just make a hole? Alright. I guess I'll just poke my head out and see if anyone's passing by or if I can hear anything. Want me to make a perception?
Not quite. As you stick your head out into this hall and begin to look to the left and to the right, you see far off in the distance, at the edge of this forward-facing walkway directly in front of you, acting almost as if a bridge over a storming sea of swirling colors. At the end of this sort of walkway, you see a glimmering outline of a white tabaxi facing away from you. You gaze upon its very large form, about 7 feet tall. Something about it seems familiar.
Well, so there isn't a lot of light around me, correct?
No, it is very dimly lit.
Well, I'm gonna do what I do best and try to stealth it up.
Go ahead.
So that's, I don't know why I'm throwing 2, but that's a 23.
As you begin to make your way down this walkway, you begin to take in your surroundings. As you walk further and further through this stone hall, it begins to fade more and more, almost like coming to an end. Some of the stone bricks cascading and falling off into this void of just amassed swirling colors, crashing over each other like the raging ocean several thousand feet beneath you. This standing bridge is both mesmerizing and terrifying. And as you make your way across it, you begin to leave behind everything confining you until you are 10 feet away from this large white tabaxi-looking creature.
Okay. Is it doing anything, or is it just standing there?
The creature is gazing out, away from you. You're currently staring at its back, out into the sea of amassed color.
And I can assume that it still hasn't seen me or heard me.
It has not seemingly noticed you.
Do I have anything on me?
You have everything with you.
Oh, okay.
You are never stripped clean of your belongings.
Okay, sick. So, I don't remember all the items that I had on me, but I definitely remember having some paper. So I would like to very quietly take some paper out of whatever I have on me, make a little ball and throw it sort of almost in front of the other tabaxi, like maybe a few feet in front of him.
The large, imposing figure is almost blocking the way, so do you mean to arc over him? Or whatever it is? Alright, so you ball up this piece of paper, make a sleight of hand check to maintain this, stealth.
11. Oof.
So you reach into one of your side pouches, and you pull up a rather small, crinkled parchment, and somewhat quietly begin to ball it up and throw it over the creature. It doesn't seem to react. And as it begins to almost crest above the creature, the ball of paper begins to unfurl itself and begin to fold itself rapidly into that of a bird and begins to fly away.
What the fuck?
It's at this point that I would like you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Gosh darn it. That's a 6.
You feel a warmth just cascade through your body from some unseen force. It doesn't seem intrusive, but rather you welcome this feeling.
Okay. Well, clearly you must know that I'm here now. Who are you?
The figure moves slightly and turns its head, and you see several scars across the neck, reaching up to the face. And this familiar feeling seems misplaced. You do not know this creature. It looks over its shoulder, looks directly at you, and then turns back, gazing out once again, wordlessly.
Are you the one who freed me? If so, thank you.
This is a prison of your own mind. The figure still facing out.
What do you mean?
You are not free.
I'm just sort of gonna look around. I am very well aware of that. Well, I don't exactly know where I am, but, well, if you know the way around, I sure would like some help.
The figure then takes a step forward, standing at the edge of this bridge, and seemingly falls off the side. And as you rush up to see and watch this figure fall, you instead see this figure walking along another path, going straight down, his feet planted against it and walking normally, leaving behind these footfalls that almost glisten with a sort of bluish color.
So, do you want me to do that? How far beneath the actual bridge that I'm on right now is this sort of invisible path that he's walking on?
It makes almost a continuation of this path, but it drops at a 90-degree angle going straight down. The two intersect at that one corner point that at one point had seemed like the end of the bridge.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, once it drops at the 90-degree angle, how far beneath the, like, original bridge is it? Like, how many feet?
It begins to extend down with its own bridge into the unforeseeable swirling color of ocean.
Can I take literally anything that I have on me and try to throw it where he's walking?
You could take out another piece of paper.
Well, the last one didn't go so effectively. So, like, maybe I'll just shoot an arrow at it? Actually, no, that might be bad. Can I, like, pick up a pebble? Is there anything like that around?
There's nothing like that around in this space.
I'll just throw, like, a coin.
You take out a copper piece and almost flick it down in the direction that this figure is going. And as it begins to fly out, it does almost like this sweeping arc, and it seems gravity is pulling it down towards the bridge, and it lands with a satisfying clink against the ground of the bridge going downwards.
Before we go any further, can I at least know your name? I mean, you clearly know me.
I would like you to make a religion check.
Oh boy, I am not proficient in that. That's a 17. Oh, not bad.
You finally realize why this figure felt so familiar. Back during your travels, when you walked across so much of this land, the different tribes told you of many beliefs, but there was one similarity across all of them. An entity, some referred to as a god, others a spirit, a ghost or curse, but all of them had the same name. The name of this entity almost creeps up on you like a predator ready to pounce on its unknowing prey. And in that moment, it clicks. From what you've heard in the past, this entity was referred to as the Hunt. Having no actual physical name or some sort of title like that of many tabaxi, this entity has always been referred to as just that.
Okay.
You begin to follow now that you know that it is somewhat safe.
So he didn't say anything to me.
He didn't say anything, and he didn't stop walking. He begins to grow further and further away.
Okay, well, I guess a deity is as good as any other person to be following. So yeah, I'll follow him.
So you very cautiously begin to extend a foot forward, expecting yourself to fall. And just as you let go of that fear of falling, you feel your foot make ground. And this sort of wave of nausea washes over you as the center of your gravity is pushed and pulled around, and you right yourself. And the figure speaks once again. Fear is the end of all things. And continues walking, once again not looking at you.
I mean, so is death. And, this isn't exactly the safest bridge to be walking on. But, thanks. And I'm just gonna keep, like, a good, steady distance between the two of us. But I will follow him.
So you pick up the pace a little bit to create that comfortable distance, we'll say about 10 feet or so, following behind. And you begin to walk once again along this long bridge, yet this time its end seems to be submerged as you begin to head closer and closer downwards from your original position into the ocean of color, acting almost as a wall. A tunnel of white light is visible at the end of it. Just before the entrance into the ocean, the figure stops. Suddenly.
Is something wrong?
The figure extends a hand out to its left, and you watch as the bird that had formed out of the paper before begins to crest and land at the outstretched paw. As you've been following in the steps of the hunt, walking near each of this glistening, wispy footfalls, you hadn't noticed at first, but as you begin to look out towards the bird, it begins to fade and become less corporeal, until eventually the physical form of the paper drops down and is no more, and instead the wispy body of that which left the physical form flies away. And for the first time, this figure turns towards you, and the face is obscured. When you look at where the face of this tabaxi should be, instead, all you see is almost like a swirling white blank canvas, and as you begin to gaze at it, your heart begins to race faster and faster and faster. Adrenaline begins to pump through your veins, but you are not afraid. I'd like you to make another wisdom saving throw.
Please. God damn it, 7.
You cannot comprehend this feeling, why this is happening, and your vision begins to blur, and the figure turns around with his back facing you once again and begins to walk into the white tunnel, speaking once again. The hunter must never hunt alone. And begins to, almost like crumbling into sand, begins to fade with each step. And with each passing moment, everything around you begins to darken until the vision before you is completely lost. And you are once again back in the room of your confinement. You begin to pull yourself up off the ground. You had fallen against it before. And you reach down for your bow. And as you begin to lay hands on it to once again put it on, you hear, almost as if in the distance, a roar. And then a voice.
Luvash, they are here.
And the wall directly in front of you, opposite of the wall where the cot was, begins to shimmer and fade. And you see 4 armed guards wearing full silver plate armor, each heavily armed, appear in a hallway. And you, for a moment, can't tell if this is reality or if it is some sort of magic. Then the voice of one of them pierces through. Prisoner Luvash, you are to come with us.
Very well.
Gather your things. And then 2 of the armed guards walk up on either side of you, and they're holding these manacles. Do you resist them trying to put them on?
I don't resist them, but I just say, is this really necessary? I've been nothing but compliant so far. And just give them a big smile.
Clack, clack, on each arm. They don't confine your legs.
Well, that's something.
So they pull you into the center of this line, 2 in front, 2 in back, and you begin walking along what at first seems as just an empty stone hallway. Make an investigation check for me. The result?
19.
As you continue to make your way forward, you look around at your surroundings, and as you get more and more used to your surroundings, you can see that there are actually hidden confinements, almost cell block-like rooms, obscured by an illusory wall on your left and right. As you walk past, you begin to peer through this almost one-sided mirror after you see through the illusion, and you see several wood elves completely dressed in green and brown leather armors, having their weapons on them. And as you continue, you see both very dire circumstances and some very bloody rooms, as many could not survive the insanity brought by confinement in darkness. As you make your way to the end of this hall, there is a almost dead end, and in its place, you see on the floor a small white circle with several arcane letterings and writings in it. And they begin to move you to the front. Step upon the circle.
So, there are 4 guards and 2 wood elves, you said? Right now in this room?
Well, you're in a hallway, and you were looking to your left and right at the cells, and you were seeing that they were mostly filled with wood elves in the cells.
Yeah, alright. I'll get on the circle.
So as you step down onto it, you are moved through physical space. A flash of pinkish white light that is all too familiar to how you ended up in this situation happens once again. And suddenly you are in a room with a high elf sitting on the other side, wearing this sort of golden silver robe. She sits on the opposite side of a large desk, and as your vision comes into focus, you can see a small room with a door on the right wall from your perspective. The figure sort of looks up at you as you're standing there, manacled, and speaks, holding several parchments. Yes, you are Luvash, correct?
Yeah, I'm just looking around. Yes, that is me. I can't help but feel like I'm not dressed well enough for this.
No matter. We have done everything that needs to be done, and over the course of your 3-month confinement, to put it simply, it has passed, and you are now within a sort of situation that would allow you to have some more control over what your fate will be. So, to give you your current options, and she begins to riffle through papers, looking for several specific pages within this stack. Well, you can either join the front lines as one of our own, and that comes with several benefits. And she pushes a parchment forward. And suddenly your manacles begin to unlock themselves and begin to float away from you off towards a wall that has almost like a coat rack, and it's just covered in manacles. Please, have a seat. And the figure snaps, and where there was no chair before, there is a chair now.
Well, at least your magic is entertaining. But please do continue.
So the figure pushes parchment forward as you sit down, and you begin to look at it. And do you read Elvish?
Yes, I do.
So yes, you can read it. Though there are parts of it that you do not understand because of the dialect. So as you begin to read over it, you get the basic gist of it. Go ahead and make an investigation check for me.
Alrighty. That will be a 14.
Right then. So, as you begin to read over it, you get the basic understanding of what it's saying. Basically, should you decide to become one of the frontline soldiers, you will receive many benefits such as free living, free food, free lodging, access and freedom of movement within the ringed city, and several other benefits such as a position of higher status than that of the common civilian, and a sort of payment in currency that you don't quite know about, that would allow you to purchase things and get access to certain areas. But she did sort of offhand mention more than one choice.
I'm sorry, she mentioned what, sorry?
More than one choice.
Yeah, she did. So, what are my other choices other than, joining you guys?
Well,
I'll be honest, I'm not too thrilled about that.
Well, the other options that are at your disposal would be to return to confinement, which a lot of our, tenants of our establishment usually don't quite like the sound of. You would be staying there for an indefinite amount of time, at least until this war was over, and then you would be released to do what you would want, but that, once again, is an indefinite amount of time. And then she pushes another parchment forward. I'm sorry, I forgot to include this in the first one. And you begin to read over that one, and it sort of talks about opportunities to move up through the ranks and more permissions and whatnot, but it's basically the same spiel again.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
My name is Ophelia Runehart, and I am one of the sort of proprietors of keeping organization over those within confinement.
Ah, I see. May I just ask a couple of questions before I give you a definitive answer?
Oh, please, please. Firstly, I'd like to bring up that you are a person of importance, at least with your past, we'll say. So, there are certain things that may not appear to be part of the full package, but so to say that not many people, especially those that were stationed at that specific fort during that specific time, sort of looking over at you, might remember and may hold some feelings against you, but otherwise you would be perfectly safe within our ranks.
Being hated is not an unfamiliar feeling to me. Do not worry about that. What I was mostly curious about... actually, would I know who was sort of in charge of the High Elves at the time that I left?
You mean the big leader or the leader of that specific fort?
The leader of just that specific fort. I can make a history check if you
Yeah,
like.
go ahead and make a history check.
And that will be a 15.
You remember his last name, since you heard it a couple of times when you were sneaking around. It would be Utheron, Captain Utheron.
Okay. Well, Ophelia, is Captain Uthron still in charge?
She begins to riffle through pages once again. Well, firstly, I'd like to bring to light the fact that you are not currently within a fort, so to say. You are currently within the 12th ring of the ring city of Ishan Nadar. So she begins to riffle through more and more. Ah, here it is. Yes, it would seem that Captain Utheron is still stationed at Fort Delta. Yes, that would be right. Fort Delta.
All right. Well, thank you for the information. I also wanted to ask, when I first arrived here, there were a few more people with me. Do you know what happened to them?
Ah, yes, those that were also put in confinement at the exact time that you were, and she snaps her fingers. And two other bundles of parchment appear on either side of her head. Boop, boop. With a very satisfying poof, poof.
That sounded satisfying.
And they both kind of land with heavy thuds on the wooden desk. So yes, it would seem that during your time of confinement, when you had befallen the unfortunate fate of stepping on one of our means of defenses along the front lines, it would seem that a Nervek, if it's written correctly here, had taken the decision of joining the front lines. And Emery, ooh, that's classified. I should not be looking at that. And it's gone.
Well, that's it's at least good to know that no one's died because of me yet.
I can say that both of them are both very happy and very healthy. And with what I've seen in the at least living conditions of our frontline soldiers, very comfortable.
Now I do have one last question, if you don't mind.
Please.
You said that there are how many rings of the city? 12? 11,
Yes,
12?
there are 12. You are currently within the 12th ring, which is the lowest ring, and ascending upwards into the sky. Yes.
Okay, well, there are 12 rings to the city, and there is a lot of, well, you high elves.
Yes, that is right.
I am actually quite surprised that you haven't managed to win this war yet. What's been taking so long?
She stops in her sort of very peppy exterior and presentation of herself and thinks for a moment, kind of tilting her head up and extending a hand outward, almost as if to speak, and then pulling it back. And once again, and then back. Well, to put it simply, we are not the aggressors in this war. At least from what has been told to me, it would seem that the other elves, the wood elves, as they've come to call themselves, have been further and further encroaching upon our land, and have been sparking conflict as a result.
Well, thank you for the information.
Have you come to a decision?
Before I make any sort of decision, I just wanted to point out that you shouldn't always trust what people tell you. Trust me, I've been, well, you shouldn't trust me either, to be honest. I'm not the nicest of people. But I've been
For
traveling
your
for a long time.
information, and thank you for your concern about the sort of process, but we currently have about 12 individuals watching over this conversation as we speak.
Oh, well, I'm just gonna look around. That goes for all of you as well, then. Don't trust what the higher ups tell you. Don't trust me either, but don't trust them. And then I'm
We
gonna give them a
thank you for
smile.
your concern, but we would like to know the decision that you have come to, so we may take action accordingly.
Alright, I'll join the front lines. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Great. And she snaps her finger once again. And this sort of silver ring with several colored gemstones along it appears, almost suspending in air in front of you before dropping, and you catch it quickly. Please go ahead and put this on.
I am not one much for jewelry.
It is required of our frontline soldiers.
Very well. I'll put it on.
And you put it on, and you begin to watch as the silver of the ring begins to melt, but it's not hot, and it begins to extend past, going across your finger bone and down onto the top of your hand until it's almost like a melted surface with gemstones along the top of your hand. Thank you for making your decision, and we hope that you'll bring us lots of success. And she snaps her finger once again, and in a flash of light, everything around you is gone, and you are outside of a building, and you watch as a lot of high elves are walking in the streets. I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Okay. Ooh, I have proficiency in those. Nice. So that's 12.
You feel very nauseous, as being teleported around a lot is very jostling and jarring, and you begin to feel very sick, and then you watch as some of the gemstones on the top of your hand begin to glow in different levels of brightness, and you feel that same familiar feeling of being about to be teleported, and once again everything around you flashes with light, and suddenly you're in a room completely surrounded by high elves, and you see, standing in the corner, a familiar face. Nervek, You watch as from the 4 arrival points for any of the soldiers at any given time flashes, and suddenly Luvash is there in the barracks with you.
Where the hell you been?
And you retch out your insides.
Yep.
No, okay, that explains a bit then. I'm gonna walk over to him and pat him on the back. You know, like you doing when someone's doing that. Yep, get it all out there, just a hairball. Yep, there you go. So, it's your first time doing that then, yeah?
No, but it does not get easier.
No, I mean that teleporting thing, not the puking.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, where have you been, man?
Oh boy, where haven't I been?
I mean, in the
outside
past
of a
couple
cell,
months.
really.
A cell, okay. All right. Well, they let you out. Why is that?
Well, apparently I'm much more useful to them outside of a cell than I am inside of one. They wanted me to join the front lines,
Oh.
which I was told you joined as well.
Uh-huh.
And you watch as Nervek holds up his right hand, and the same sort of situation with the gems along his hand is present as well, except his gems are different colors, and his silver sort of implementation is also lined with a bit of gold. Nervek, I'd like for you to write down that you are rank 3.
Okay. Can do.
So, how are things around here?
Well, it's the day in, day out. You ever heard of job before? Or is that not your kind's thing?
It's not really a thing that we do, no.
Well, expect to have a lot of the same one day to the other. It's not bad though. Pays good. Good enough at least.
Where are we exactly? Do you know? Which fort is this?
You want to step outside a minute?
Sure.
So the both of you walk towards the door that is slightly to the left of the 4 teleportation sort of landing points. And as you open it up, it extends out for about 15 or so feet until there's a drop off on this sort of floating, I guess you could call it a floating island, that is very slowly beginning to move around the 12 layers of the ringed city of Ishan Nadar. And as you take a few steps out into the fresh air, it is blindingly bright. It is the middle of the day. And as your vision begins to clear, you take a few steps out into the soft grass. And you look out, and you can see each of the 12 layers. You're, in terms of height, you're at about the 5th layer. So there are 4 going up several hundred feet into the air, and then many, many going down several hundred more feet going downwards.
Well, this really seems unnecessary, doesn't it? I mean, you could have just built cities. That's what everyone else does.
Well, I suppose they wouldn't be this advanced if they did what everyone else did. But sure, they could have built a city.
So, I've never been here.
No,
So
yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with this place.
Well, you want to walk around, get your bearings, be my guest, I'll follow. I know
What
where,
I want to do is leave.
yeah, you and me both, friend. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. Well, if you want a bite to eat, seeing as you just tossed your lunch there, I know a place if you're just looking for rest. Barracks are right over there.
I'll be fine.
All right then.
Let's look around.
Okay.
So as you say that, you watch as Nervek sort of extends the hand with the gemmed implementation upon the top of his hand and sort of holds it out in front of him, and the gems begin to glow in this sort of pattern, and then a very transparent version of the ringed city is sort of cascading on top of his hand, with several small little glowing dots on it. And it's very mesmerizing to look at.
Where do you want to go?
Now, let me think. Do I know roughly what would be on each of the levels, or at least some of them? Or is it just completely foreign to me?
This place is completely foreign to you. You had no idea of the existence of this city. You thought all that the High Elven side was, from your experience, just a series of forts. You have no idea how you missed this huge city in the sky before.
So, are you aware of any ways to actually get to the ground?
Well, when you get called in for a job, you'll get teleported. But, other than that, I mean,
So you
Take it
just
up.
stay up here all the time?
until they decide it's time for us to go, yeah, that's a spot of that works.
And you haven't tried escaping yet?
No, you give it a shot and then let me know how that goes.
Very well. What happened to Emery? Do you know? He was with us?
yeah, I've seen him a couple of times. He's I think he's got a bit of a paper pusher job. Not exactly blue collar like us, but he's working for him. He's not doing bad though. He's doing all right.
Do you know where we can find him?
Likes to spend a lot of time at this arcanum of sorts. He's taken a liking to it, so we can't go in. We don't have the I don't know. Well, we're not allowed to enter, so.
So you would know that Emery mostly spends his time in the layers 1st through 3.
Okay. So if we'd like to go there, I mean, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I think speaking to him would be a good idea right now.
All right. So I suppose we can head to the 3rd layer since we're just going down and look around there, and if we don't find anything, continue down.
Yeah.
So you watch as on the 3rd ring, Nervek begins to bring his other hand up and touch one of the glowing dots on the 3rd ring, and he vanishes before you in a flash of light.
Can I do that? I'm just gonna put my hand out in the same way that he did.
And as you do so, mimicking his movements, the same sort of grid comes up with several less lights, but the same one that he touched is there for you as well. So you reach up and hesitantly touch it, knowing that that sort of same nauseous wave is going to come, but you do so anyway. And the same flash of light before, and the both of you are standing side by side in one of these 4 set sets of 4 landing pads for these this method of travel.
Am I okay? Am I throwing up?
You're good. You're slowly starting to get used to it. You still feel really nauseous, but not to the point where you're gonna toss cookies.
All right. Well, let's get going.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we'll just start looking for him.
So first stop, the Arcanum, then.
Yep.
Right to that.
Yeah. However, as we start walking around, can I make a perception check to see if I notice people looking at me weirdly?
Go for it.
That's a 14.
As you begin to look around, your surroundings are both awe-inspiring, but also question-invoking. You on this third layer, you begin to see lots of large buildings, most prominently the Arcanum, almost looking somewhat almost resembling that of a cathedral, with its large stained glass window type exterior and huge doors. It's easily the most recognizable building on this layer, but you also see several signs written in High Elven dialect version of Elvish, and you begin to take in your surroundings, mostly watching over the people. There aren't very many people out. This is not as clustered of a layer. Mostly people going back and forth between buildings that they need to go to, or walking along these giant stairs on the edges of the city that connect the layers, for those without the ability to move quickly with where they want to go via magical means. So you don't really catch too many people looking in your direction. Many people just focused intently on what they're out and about to do.
Alright. Well, I guess I'll get mostly weird looks from soldiers and people who don't really like me, which is understandable. Alright, yeah. Let's go to the Arcanum.
So as you both make your way towards the very large building, the Arcanum, neither of you can enter into it, but you do catch somebody coming out. This figure wearing a red cloak is carrying several bundles of books and is exiting the Arcanum.
Do I recognize him?
Nope. The hood is actually pulled up and you can't see who it is. But they begin to make their way down the steps. Do you flag them down? Try and ask them anything?
I was gonna do something cute, but I don't remember all the items that I have on me. Yeah, I'll just flag that person down. Excuse me, sir, person.
The figure turns in your direction, and notices your presence. Yes, hello?
Hi. I am looking for someone. A man named Emery. I've been told that he's in there quite often.
Could you describe him?
No, actually. I haven't seen him in quite a while. I don't exactly remember. Do you remember what he looks like, Norvik?
You two are soldiers, yes?
Sure, yes.
And this Emery is not.
I don't think so. As I said, I haven't seen him in a very long time.
Excuse me, sir.
Looking over at you, Nervak.
Could you describe your friend Emery to me?
Well, sort of a squirrely looking fella. Not an elf.
Ah, not. Oh, yes, not an elf. I thought that's who you were talking about. There is a sort of bronzish
Sam.
man who frequents the Arcanum. He is usually here. Yes, I think he might be inside. What do you need him for?
He's a friend of ours. We haven't seen him in a little bit. Just want to make sure he's doing okay. But see, us soldiers, we cannot enter here at the moment.
The figure begins to approach Luvash, taking a few steps forward, and extends a hand outwards, a very thin, feminine hand, and begins to reach towards your arm, Luvash.
I'm not doing anything.
She begins to sort of feel through your fur. Oh, that's real. Interesting. I thought it might be an illusion of some sort.
Yeah, I guess in here you're not really used to my kind.
I've never seen. I've only read about tabaxi before. Oh, it is interesting. So
Well,
you
there
said
used to be
that,
a lot of-
completely cutting you off. So you said that you are friends with this Emery, yes? Would you like me to go and retrieve him for you?
That would
I
be
would-
wonderful.
I would really appreciate it, thank you.
Yes, I will return shortly.
And walks inside. Emery, you are minding your own business. You are sitting down, surrounded by books, just gathering more and more knowledge, learning more and more about things that you want to know about. And suddenly you hear a voice, a very hushed tone.
Emery? Oh,
Yes.
Sir Emery, yes. Apologies. I apologize for disturbing you, but it would seem that a fellow named Nervek and a friend of his is looking for you outside.
Thank you.
Would you
We're
like me
outside.
to return message?
No, I'll go meet them myself. It's fine.
Yes. Once again, apologies for disturbing you during your studies, Sir Emery.
No worries.
And walks off into the library.
I'm gonna go outside.
As you make your way outside, you open up the doors and the books behind you begin to flap away on their own to the appropriate bookshelves. And as you step forward, you watch as the door opens and you see Emery stepping forward, though he seems different. He seems almost as if he is glowing slightly. And as you look over his form, you see that almost silver and bronze magics are almost crackling in his hair. And his eyes that were once almost a very darkish brown color, somewhat bronze, are now very vivid. And having these almost swirling energies, if you look into them long enough, visible within the iris.
Well, it seems that you had a much more eventful last few months than us two did.
Where have you been at, Luvash?
Long story. Jail, torture, really bad food. So, you are one of the smarter guys in the group. Have you figured out a way out of here yet?
A way out?
Yes.
That's the only way.
I believe your mic cut out.
I don't think we got all that.
Oh. I said, win the war? That's the only way.
I mean, I'm not really keen on fighting for, you know, These people here, not a huge fan of them. Don't like high elves, or wood elves, or elves in general.
Well, you either fight or, I guess, go back to prison. In your case, it seems.
And you seem totally fine with just being here.
I've had quite the good time.
Okay, very well. I guess good luck. And I'm just sort of gonna head off.
Okay.
Is he okay, Nervek?
Well, he seems fine. I never much liked him in the first place, you know that. But keeps asking me about how to get out, asking me why I haven't tried escaping. He doesn't quite grasp the situation.
Mm-hmm.
This much I know. But I mean, he's got the attachment. He said he'd be a soldier, so I don't know. I don't have much faith in it, but we'll see how he does.
Well, if worse comes to worse.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Be seeing you then.
I have all night. I
Oh,
might as
yeah?
well join you.
Well, all right then. What do you say we try and track him down? Shouldn't be hard.
Might as well.
Only one Catman in the whole city, if I had to guess.
And luckily for me, you speak Elvish, so...
Correct.
By the way, I'm looking for the nearest place that serves alcohol.
On this layer, pretty difficult to
Yeah.
find.
I assumed so.
Mostly shops or specialty goods. As you begin to look around, make another perception check for me.
Will do.
And just for general like comedy, as I said before, this layer is not very populated with a lot of people, so it's not like he's getting lost in a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like being on a landing strip. So that was a 21, you said, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So as you begin to look around, you see several different types of stores. Actually, let me flip over a little bit. There we go. Just a couple of stores. You see Baubles and Imbibements, Mulforods and Sons, the Glistening Shadow, the Darkened Inferno, just to name a few of these store titles. But none of them seem to be, at least from gazing at the establishments, any sort of place where you could procure any sort of imbibement of alcoholic nature.
Well, that is a damn shame. Can I just try to flag someone down and ask them?
Oh yeah, there you.
Literally anyone.
Yeah, you stop the person nearest to you. It's a younger looking elf, which is really strange because you don't see very many young elves. And carrying several bound up pieces of parchment, you flag him down. Yes, what do you need? Speaking in Elvish.
Hello. I'll speak to him in Elvish then. Hello. I am looking for a place to have a drink and maybe a meal.
Oh,
But
well,
I'm not
that's
quite familiar with this place.
very, very easy, very easy. And He pushes all of the bundles of parchment and scrolls that he's carrying to one arm and then snaps his finger, and a flask of water and like loaf of bread just materialize out of the air. Anything else? Anything else?
That I appreciate it, but it's not exactly what I meant.
Now you have his attention. He looks directly at you, confused.
Just any place where they might serve, alcohol and like food that isn't tasteless bread.
Well. And he begins to look around at his situation and notices that he's basically all alone with you in a very wide open space. Yes, okay. There's some, this is the way it sounds when spoken. And with your interpretation of Elvish and sort of the slang, it sounds something along the lines of real food, kind of like a Google Translate type situation. And yeah, that's on the 11th layer. You can just go down there and get there. They have non-magical things. It's kind of costly, but if that's what you're looking for, then you can go ahead and go down there. Is there anything else?
No, that's it. Thank
All
you.
right, bye-bye. And goes off in a rush.
No, these guys are pretty weird.
At this point, you guys have already caught up to him.
Yeah, actually, I was actually gonna look for them.
You turn and look out at where the Arcanum was, and they're like 10 feet away from you now.
So apparently to get some alcohol we need to get to the 11th layer, and it's also quite expensive, so I'm definitely gonna need an escort and some money.
You're not getting anything from me, but I can show you where it is.
I mean, you could have been nicer about it, but alright.
Well, I could have been, but it's my money, not yours. So I'll show you how to do it. Or, well, we should walk with Emery here.
Wait,
You're talking about real food, right?
Yeah.
oh,
know the
it is
owner.
called real food. Oh, I thought I was just bad at Elvish.
Well,
Well,
like, everybody kind of is. That is how it sounds.
The translation's just weird. It's not a...
Like in Elvish, it sounds like Raksan Flakitshor or something like that, and it just comes out as like real food.
the closest like
Elvish to
equivalent.
common type situation.
Oh wait, actually,
Place
don't
of which to
really want
ingest food of physicality not magical is the direct translation.
Real
Nice.
food.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually do want to walk to the 11th layer instead, because it's been in a cell for a few months.
Sounds
Kinda
good.
need to stretch the legs.
So you begin to walk towards the edge of one of the rings, where there's a large staircase with a bar going down the center for people going up and people going down. And these two staircases act as means of physical transportation between the rings, and you begin to see people going up and down them. These stairwells guarded by two guards at the entrance to each stairwell on each layer to sort of govern which people come, which people go, if they have the clearance or not. And you begin the long walk of going down each of these layers. And it takes you about an hour and a half of walking. Because you are on the third layer going down 8.
Oof.
It's a good distance. So
We got some cardio for the day.
oh yeah,
A lot of stairs.
you definitely built up an appetite.
Is there? Well, are there a lot of soldiers around as we walk down?
No. It's mostly just other high elven people. And as you begin to descend down each of the layers, the buildings begin to get more and more compact, and there's more and more people. You can tell, like, as you go lower, you get to where a majority of the population, especially around the 10th, 11th layers, where people live. A lot of living sort of situations with stacked buildings, with doors several tens of feet in the air without any way of getting to them, seemingly. Until eventually you get down to the 11th layer. The two guards, which are completely fully armored with helmets and everything, look at each of you, and they sort of glance, let you pass. And Emery, you're helming the lead now.
Mm-hmm.
As Emery steps forward in front of everybody and begins to lead the way down almost a labyrinthian style cluster of buildings until eventually you come to a hand-carved sign above a door that says the name in Elvish, which is really long. And you step inside, and you're immediately hit with a rushed wave of the sounds of sizzling meats and cooking food, and the just sounds and smells are very overwhelming. As it is somewhat near the middle of the day still, it doesn't have as many patrons as you're used to, Emery. But there's still one or two just there at the edge, at the other end of the building. Many booths and tables scattered around, but on the opposite side of where the door is, you see almost like a service window of a bar with several stools as it gazes into the actual kitchen with a sort of cloth where just about your head would be.
Well, I'm walking in, and I'll sit down at the bar. And is there anyone like around to serve?
Oh yeah, there's a full kitchen staff, all going about their business, serving the other two patrons, and I assume everybody's just walking up as a group and plopping down together. You see one other soldier and then one just rather average looking person. The average looking person pushes forward once their meal is brought to them, several small looking crystalline baubles, and the server sort of scoops them up. And then when food is brought towards the soldier, he just lifts a hand to show the silver with gems on it, and the food is served, and he walks away without taking anything.
So, I assume that those weird crystals that that guy just gave to the staff is what is used here as money?
Yeah, you can think of it like it's a coin purse you don't gotta take nothing out of. When it's payday after doing some work, coin goes in. When you buy stuff, coin goes out. Coin is a metaphor. There's nothing physical going in or out of your hand. It's magical, I suppose.
Bitcoin. Alright, well. Do I have like a new pouch on me where I can hold these things?
Oh, there's nothing going in or out. It's like
it's not an actual pouch, never mind.
Yeah, it's like
it's all
metaphor.
Like mental.
It's your wristband.
Yeah.
Alright.
It's the wristband at Disneyland.
And how do I know how much money I have?
You actually don't know Nervek.
Yeah, I'm just gonna shrug.
Yeah, give him a shrug too.
I was gonna say I don't think I know.
You don't.
Yeah, I'll shrug.
All right. Well, I'll just raise my hand. Excuse me. I'll just try to flag someone down.
You speak out in Elvish, obviously, yes?
Yeah.
All right, so you try and get the attention of one of the servers, and one comes up wearing a smock, and Emery, you know this man as Rofulio, one of the 4 servers, and as he approaches, he speaks in Elvish. Yeah, what can I get for you to eat? Emery, he's a friend of yours.
He's still speaking Elvish, right?
Well, he's speaking in common, actually, to you.
Ah, okay.
Broken as fuck common, but common nonetheless.
Yes, he is.
Ah, the best, then. Speaking in Elvish once again to you, Luvash. So what do you have?
I don't know. There are so many things that I've wanted to eat for the past few months. Just bring me whatever you think is good.
Ah, then you'll be having the sort of sampler platter then.
That sounds good.
Right, and then he kind of looks out and puts a hand up to his mouth, and then kind of calls out, "Friends of Emery's are here!" And everybody kind of looks in the direction all in unison, and they all kind of, towards Emery.
Oh, and also some alcohol, please.
That's doable, yeah. Anything for you two? Emery and this gentleman?
I'm good, thank you though.
I'm fine.
Right. And begins to walk off, and you watch. It's a very open kitchen. You can see the methods of preparation and several slabs of meat that are varying different colors. Reds, greens, purples, even like sickly yellowish looking color. And you have some time between the 3 of you as the meal is being prepared.
I'm just gonna sit quietly for a few minutes.
You said you were being tortured?
Eh, you know. Sure, yes, I was being tortured. In my own personal way.
Strange. What did you do?
It's not important. Now, both of you seem pretty adamant about not trying to escape from this place.
I just quite frankly don't think it's possible, I'll be honest with you.
Well, have you tried? How can you know that it's not possible?
I told you I think. I don't know, but I like to keep my head located above my shoulders, not near the floor.
Ah, but having your head on your shoulders is overrated, especially when you're trapped in a place like this.
Debatable, but sure.
So, what happened to everyone else?
About that. Well, they seem to have been captured by wood elves, whom we are currently at war with.
Huh.
Convenient, huh?
That might actually help us.
In what way?
Well, without getting into too much detail, I'm pretty sure I should be able to find or have some contacts with some people on the Wood Elf side. Some old friends.
Hmm.
And they should be able to help us. Or at least me. I definitely want to leave this place.
If you leave, you put us at risk. You understand that, right?
Well, I'm not forcing you to stay.
You don't understand.
If you mean a risk of being chased and killed, well, it's not the first time that's happened to me.
I think he's getting that guilt by association.
Well, not really. I mean, the people in this place already don't like me as it is. And,
Yes,
don't
but they
really-
stand by their word.
Oh, did they threaten you?
No. In
Well,
fact,
then... Gone?
if I know anything, they most likely treat prisoners better than they do on the Wood Elf side.
Then they do what, sorry?
Than on the Wood Elf side.
That is probably true. The Wood Elves are not exactly known for being very welcoming. But they're not the ones that I'm going to get in contact with.
And who is?
My old tribe. By the
Who
way,
you said were on the Wood Elf side.
yes.
So you
By the
being
way,
a soldier doesn't make much sense, then, does it?
Well, it was either that or going back to jail. Wasn't really too keen on that one.
Huh.
But also I assumed that being a soldier would allow me to get close to their side and maybe get in contact with someone.
Well, I don't intend to risk what's been built here.
And I'm not doing too bad myself, neither.
Alright, very well.
That's
I intend-
when suddenly the gems on the top of Nervek's hand begin to glow in a very familiar pattern, Nervek. You've been randomly selected for patrol.
Alright, well,
You have about
that's my cue.
a minute before immediate teleportation.
I'm getting called in. I'll hold up my hand so I can see it. You two keep your noses out of trouble. At the very least, for now, I gotta go. And I'll get up and turn to exit.
As you begin to start walking out, you're counting down in your head, and just as you reach for the door handle, well, and you are out. And he disappears in a flash of pinkish light.
I'm just gonna look in the general direction in which he was in. That... Why did it... I get that it's fast, but it just looks unpleasant. Doesn't it?
Seems fine to me. Though
Oh,
I'm probably a
yeah.
bit more used to magical transportation than you are.
Yeah, by the way, I did want to ask, what the hell is going on with, you know, you? You look very different.
I have been training, you could say.
Ah, I see.
And I can feel the world at my fingertips at this rate.
Alright. Well, that seems like a conversation that I'm going to enjoy a lot more when I'm less sober than I am currently.
And it's
Wait,
around
excuse
that
me.
time that the food is brought to you, and you are served a steaming platter of several multicolored meats in smaller portions with a bottle of the most available alcohol that they have on them, which would be a type of elven wine, high elven wine,
Oh,
called Spellweaver's wine, if you want to add that to your inventory.
sure. Well, I'm gonna add it to my stomach.
You will. So it's the
Um,
type of drink that you take in small amounts or shots.
oh, okay.
He wants
Uh,
all of it.
Well, I've been in prison for the past 3 months, so my alcohol tolerance is probably not at its peak. Should probably take it slow. Um, would you say what it's called? Spellweavers?
Spellweaver's wine.
All right, fantastic.
So Rofulio, as he serves the plate. So you have small pieces of drake, wyvern, some of the more local wildlife such as deer, boar. You also have some of the more exotic, such as some of the griffins that have been taken down during the most recent combat. We have connections that allow us to get some of those juicy cuts, and begins to kind of point at each of the meats as it goes on. Please enjoy. And as he begins to walk away, you see several of the gems on your hand begin to glow slightly for a moment and then stop.
Huh. Well, I guess I had enough money to pay after all. I'm gonna take one piece of meat and eat it, and I'm just gonna completely break, and I'm just gonna start eating everything. 'Cause, God, I love food.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. All the different textures and meats and flavors. You can tell that all of these haven't been spiced basically at all. It's just the innate flavor of the meat itself and it's each of their exotic backgrounds. It is magnificent. And
Food
that
that doesn't taste like nothing.
that
God.
enhanced feeling is even further enhanced by the amount of time that it has been since you ate real food.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to enjoy every last bite of this, and I'm just gonna be quiet when I eat because I'm just enjoying my food and the wine.
So the two of you sit in silence then.
Yeah, unless Emery has something to say to me.
Do not take unnecessary risks. That's all I'll say.
But it's what I've done all my life. How do you think? Oh God, I'm just having a lot of trouble processing all this food at once. Um, how do you think I got into, this situation in the first place?
Well, yeah. Perhaps it's better to keep yourself from getting in these situations.
Yeah, well, to each their own.
And
Honestly,
with that, you take a sip of the Spellweaver's wine, and it begins to almost feel like several arcane bursts across your mouth in waves of flavor and varying intensity of alcohol from just a single sip.
nice. Am I fucked up already?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, I I do enjoy being, not having, being in these situations. It is fun. Uh, yeah. God, this is very strong. Would you like some?
I'm okay.
Is Refulio anywhere or near?
Yeah, they're around. It's not a large establishment.
Oh, okay. Um, I'm sorry, Refulio. You said your name was?
Yeah, that's me. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah. Um. Well, could I have a preemptive cure for the massive hangover that I'm going to have after this wine?
Looks kind of down and then up in thought. And he kind of just waves his hands around. And you see like magic like dancing off of the fingertips. Can't you just do this? And get rid of it in the morning?
I'm gonna wave my hand around in front of my face.
And nothing happens.
I don't think so. I'm not really into the magical side of fighting.
You have caught him perplexed. Well, you're a soldier, right?
That I am, yes.
You can ask one of the other soldiers to help you out.
Alright, very well, thank you. I'm gonna turn back to Emery. Anyway, even if something does go wrong, I don't know. I feel like I may have the gods watching over me. And I'm gonna give him a little wink.
I'm really doubtful of everything he's saying at this point.
I'm just gonna go back to eating and drinking. And then I'm probably gonna pass out.
Good luck to you, my friend. I'm gonna walk out.
All right. And just rightly so, as you take your first few steps outside, the sun is just cresting past the trees, which means that it's time for training.
Mm-hmm.
And you wait for a few moments more. There's that feeling. And your surroundings change. And you, Luvash, hear the door close behind you as you're left alone once again.
But at least I have food.
And some really crazy drink.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll just eat and drink a little bit more, and whatever's left of the drink, I'll just carry with me. And then I guess I'll go back to wherever I was in the first place with Nervak.
So eventually, once you finish, you bring up the layout once again, and you see the sort of orbiting island where this building is, which you sort of recognize from its positioning, what it is. And you tap on the little light, and then you vanish. And you're once again within the same sort of homestead interior, surrounded by other soldiers that are all going about their business. There is a version of magical ping pong going on, if I recall correctly, where they're slapping around a ball of light with their hands. And Nervek, fun fact, you got pretty good at that. Like,
Yes.
pretty good.
Can I have proficiency?
Sure, why not?
Yes.
Proficiency in light ball, which is what it's called.
All right, sweet.
Taking a note down. And with that, we are going to change our scene over to Nervek. Nervek, you've been transported out to Fort Alpha. The most forward fort along that is just about a mile or so away from the front lines, between the trees. And you look around inside of this armory room at the other 4 landing pads, sort of arranged in a line, all 5 of them, as the other people that were randomly selected appear. One of them is half dressed, the other one is completely soaked, and other 2 were ready for it. And this is a rather normal occurrence, as the random selections happen nearly at the same time of the day. But as is expected, not everybody is prepared. So the one that was seemingly in the middle of a bath begins to dry themselves off. You don't recognize any of these people by name, but you have seen them around the barracks every so often. And begin to outfit yourself. They go and retrieve short swords, or what you know as Spellbreaker shields, one of the large, almost curved shields that allow the user, once attuned, to essentially cast Counterspell at 3rd level as a reaction, obviously, with a short cooldown time. A very good magical item. You can pick one up if you want.
Yeah, I'll snag one.
But obviously you don't go for any sort of short sword. And you have about 2 hours preparation. And as you attune to it, you have some time with these people, should you so desire.
Okay, I'll once everyone's looking settled, the barracks or the armory, is there any place where the men are gathering, or are we all just kind of doing our own thing dispersed?
They're dispersed and around, but it's a rather small room that only has a few people in it at a time. The returning squadron and the exiting squadron. The squadrons go in groups of 5. The others are usually composed of different types of people that are classified by their skill sets. You see 2 of them going for these stringless bows with several runic writings going along the sort of handle of it, and another person picking up one of the Spellbreaker shields, and then another person pulling up a short sword, one of the curved short swords, going about and around. Your team is composed of yourself, 2 male elves, and 2 female elves.
I guess I'll walk over to one of the male elves and say, when was the last time you were on patrol?
My last time, it was 3 days ago.
Anything out of the ordinary?
Not that I can remember, is just being out there. I don't really like being out there. There's a lot of nature and animals, and there's just too much, and the smells are just awful.
Yeah, I guess I get what you mean.
But there aren't many of us spellbreakers.
And he picks up his shield to bang it against you, bang it against yours. A sort of common right between the spellbreakers.
Fair enough. And I guess then I'll just go back to doing my own thing and sort of wait for the returning team to get there, so then we can leave.
Yep. So you wait about an hour. Everybody's getting situated. You see several attunements going on, and you decide that it's best for that to leave them alone, so that they can attune to their spellslinger bows and spellbreaker shields, and magic carver swords. And after the hour passes, and it's just about time for the returning team to come back, the one who grabbed both of the short swords kind of comes up to you, a rather younger looking elf compared to a lot of the other ones. And he comes up to you. Hey, Novak, right?
Yeah, ask me.
You're rank 3, right?
Ask right.
Ah, man. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
And he sort of, you were kind of waiting, sort of near the door on this sort of bench, just waiting, and he sits down next to you.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're one of the spellbreakers, but I just wanted to ask, what's it like on the outside?
Well,
He sort of speaks in a more hushed tone. That way nobody else would hear the conversation.
outside, I'm gonna do the same. Outside of here, it's a pretty dense forest. I mean,
No, I mean past that.
oh, outside.
You're not like us.
Well, I hail from the great plains of Draenora.
What's it like?
What's it like? Well, it's a lot different than here. Magic ain't common, I can tell you that. Not near as common as here, and folks are simpler. Less big issues. More trying to put food on the plate for your family, more trying to make sure.
Well, why don't they just make it, like, with magic?
Like I said, there's less magic.
So you're telling me where you come from there's people who can't just make food?
Mhm.
What kind of world is that? How do people eat if they can't?
Well, if you can't make it, you better be able to kill something to eat it.
Kill something?
be-
Like
You ever killed anything, boy?
to be truthful with you, this is my first patrol, and I only joined the soldiers about a month ago.
All right.
I haven't seen combat.
Well, when you're fighting something that's thinking, breathing like you and me, I've never myself much relished the killing there. Don't you worry about that. I doubt we'll find anything on this patrol, but animals, them's different. It's, at least in my case, it's always been killing them so you can survive. It's you or them, that sort of thing. But a lot of that outside of here, senseless killing of each other. Humans killing humans, elves killing humans, humans killing elves, all kinds.
Wait, there are elves out there too?
Mm-hmm. All kinds of elves. Half elves. You ever heard of a drow?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, ask your parents about it sometime. Maybe they'll know.
Well, once you become a soldier, well, I know you're not a high elf, so you probably don't know, but when you become a soldier, your life is just the soldier life. You don't really, your fellow soldiers are your family.
I see. I know what that's like. Lost my mom and pop when I was a boy too. Different story there. Like I said, outside world's a lot different. Where I come from on the plains, a group of people called the Triad came around, and in the beginning it seemed like they were...
Wait, you mean like Fort Triad, the Wood Elven Fort?
No, different. I think it's more like a trade organization.
And with that, the door swings open. Your favorite part about the sort of patrol swap is going through a door instead of teleporting. And you watch the other squadron of 5 begin to make their way inside. Looking not so haggard, more bored than anything.
Okay.
And the leader coming in first. Right, well, nothing too big to report. just swapping off.
Okay. I'll pat the kid on the back and say, "Well, let's get going then."
Oh, yeah. Thanks for telling me what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more when we get back.
All right.
All right. My name's Reldath.
Reldath?
Reldath, yeah.
All right. Well, good to meet you, Reldath. Now, pull your head out of your ass and let's get going.
Yeah. You got it.
And he puts both of his swords in their sheaths on either side of him, and you kind of get up and like whistle and get the attention of everybody, and like sort of point towards the door, and everybody begins to make their way out. And with that, we're going to be going ahead and moving on to our break. And when we get back, we will be starting on the Wood Elven side. I'd like to thank you all for joining us thus far, and for those watching on YouTube, we'll see you in part 2.